And I don't think they're going to change. I'm sorry. I'm just seeing Mikey's comments here that Elliott sent out a tweet. I haven't seen that about.
All right. So it looks
Isaac
like
Howard.
so this is some breaking news here from Isaac Howard, number 12 of his thoughts. Finally, some clarity on Isaac Howard. He is planning a return to Michigan State. Tampa-based 2022 first rounder can be an unrestricted free agent if unsigned by August 15th. I admit to being a little surprised as the Lightning were his hope to see, but the team simpatico on where everything stood at this time. We will see how things proceed from here, especially if other teams are interested. All right, Double E, there's the breaking news about surprised to hear this, to read this.
A little bit, yeah. Again, what does the word planning a return mean? Right, it's kind of open-ended.
It means it's not guaranteed.
Yeah,
it's still not, I don't know, man. I'm trying to make
again, like everything we talked about, like, if you're a Howard situation, especially you see a guy like Ryan Leonard make the jump and he's immediately in Washington's lineup and playing. I mean, you kind of think that you're that same way, right? You kind of think that you're in that boat. So yeah, if like I said, his idea, sign now, get in games, burn the contract. That's from a player standpoint because they have some of that leverage, right? That's the leverage they have, and then you can, quote unquote, threaten unrestricted free agency. Again, everything I understand about the situation is they're on good terms. It's not like things are on bad terms here. That they're in a situation to where the Lightning want to sign him. It's the cap is just kind of preventing this. There's a blockade that they have to get past for the cap, and so we'll see where it goes. Certainly, you trust the word of Elliot Friedman and what he does, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It's just, hey, and look, that's probably coming from the agent, right? Put a little leverage on the Lightning and kind of put the ball in their corner to make them, look the way that they do.
But what would they have to? That's the thing. Is like, all right, it's all about leverage. Like the Lightning want to put their best forward this year, but also not mortgage the future. But what is this? I mean, is this just a standard back and forth between an agent and a team, or like it's just standard negotiating? But what does this accomplish? I guess that's my. Are you really going to put the Tampa Bay Lightning in a position where they're going to panic or, right? Like, you may think you're making this move out of leverage, but Julian Brisebois and Matthew Darch and the crew, like they know what it takes to win, and they wouldn't promote him or not promote him out of spite or not thinking it's the best thing for the team short-term and long-term. I mean, we just mentioned 11-7, and it seems like they're pretty comfortable with doing that. You have Connor Geekie that has already played some pro hockey down, and you would think that if they needed another guy in the middle six, that he would be that guy. So I don't know if could this be a misplay from Isaac Howard's camp?
Sure, absolutely. There's no doubt. I mean, Julian has kind of proven in the past that he makes pretty sound business decisions. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about and we know what we know now about Connor Ingram, but we didn't know about it at the time when he was part of this organization where, he had an all-star year, and the word coming out of Syracuse was, we're not promoting him going to the all-star game. We're not, because they weren't happy because he felt he should have been in the NHL. Right. So that was the team's way of saying, we're not going to deal with this. And, we're not going to push you. We're not going to promote you. We're not going to, kind of put your name out there. And then the next year he was traded. Right. So different situation for sure. But, could the agent and Howard be overplaying the hand a little bit? Yeah, maybe. But again, we'll see where it all goes out. There's still a week left in the regular season. All it takes is one phone call to change things. So this is not by any means close the book on Isaac Howard at all.
Yeah, because that's where people are going to go.
Yep.
That's where
we all react to it that way.
Everybody's going to start looking at this like JB. I already had somebody on Twitter. Oh, JBB fumbled the bag, and what are they doing? I can't believe it. But just taking all that out of it, where does he fit in right now? Like, let's say they do sign him right now and you bring him with this team. Where do you put him? where do you put him? Not even just with the team, but with the organization as a whole. Like, of course, I've been shouting from the high heavens. I think he would make this team better. But like as we speak right now, not about where he could be, but just the way that they are putting their team out there in an 11-7 aspect, and the way that they kind of like how they're playing. They win tonight. They're in first place. I mean, I just where does he fit? Not just with this team, with the big club, but the organization as a whole.
Well, he's their top prospect. There's a lot of people who are very high on him. We've certainly seen his ability to score some clutch goals at big moments in games. But again, you look at the recent history of the organization. They don't typically just hand stuff to guys, right? Like you're not coming in to this organization and jumping to the front of the line, so to speak.
Right.
I mean, think about Jonathan Drouin. He's probably the best example. All the accolades and all the hype and all the skill and everything else that Jonathan Drouin came in, and he kind of came in with a little bit of a entitlement to him because look, he was a great prospect, 3rd pick overall, and won all kinds of major awards and was coming off a Memorial Cup championship with Halifax and everything else. And where did he start his first year? He went back to junior because of, the entitlement sort of aspect of the way he kind of came in. So the Lightning are not going to, lack of a better phrase, be intimidated by, this type of a situation. Julian is very calculated in everything they do. So where does he fit if he were to come in here right now? It's a good question. You would think that, you could kind of get a 3rd-line look, right? If that's the case. Are you taking Gage Gonsalves out of the lineup for that to happen? Because you're not taking Gergensons, you're not taking Glendening, Gord, Bjorkstrand, Paul. Those guys aren't coming out of the lineup. You would want to see where he fits, right? And I think that's part of the thought process here is that if he could come in and have an opportunity to play, at least you could see where he fits, right? And then next year everything starts brand new, a training camp, and you have to earn your spot and everything like that. But I think for guys like Isaac Howard, first of all, you see where they fit in and then figure it out from there.
Yeah, and I wonder that too. Like you said about guys not being things handed to them, but look at Colorado letting Cale Makar and Rangers with Chris Kreider and Nyes with the Maple Leafs. Like those are 3 playoff teams that they came up to. It's not just, we look at Ryan Leonard, and of course his is a different situation, and you understand that. But Gabe Perreault's getting scratched tonight by the Rangers. They're an absolute dumpster fire anyway. But you look at these 3 teams that were able to do that. They were playoff teams, so it wasn't like they had good players. There was a reason why they were in the position. So how do you, and I know it's tough to speak for everybody else, but how do you kind of rationalize that to your players if you have a guy that just comes right in, I don't want to say off the street, but a guy coming from college, skipping the AHL, and then going to the big club? Like, how do you, it's probably not too hard to sell Cale Makar, right?
It was at the time.
But I mean, he was that, it turns out he's on his way to being one of the greatest defensemen of all time. But how does that, is there also a concern that there would be a negative effect of doing this for your not just your big club, but also the guys in the AHL?
Well, I think the guys in the AHL are a different story. I mean, look, this is not the 1980 U.S. Olympic team when Herb Brooks brought in Tim, what's his name there towards the end, and say, he can help us. No, this is our family, right? That whole scene from the movie and everything else. This is pro hockey, and everything is always an open competition. Do you worry about how it could affect things in what you feel is a tight locker room? Sure. And that would be, a challenge to fit in a player, but he's still a talented player, and players know talent. Nobody knows talent like players know talent. Right. And that's just the way it is. All it would take is a couple of practices to kind of see where he fits. Can he think? Can he move? Can he fast? What's his, it wouldn't take that long to figure out, but you don't know until it happens. And that's sort of a lot of the stuff you kind of have to balance here. Is it worth bringing in a highly skilled player if it disrupts the locker room? But what if he's not ready? then what does it do? And that's why ideally this would have been done a week ago.
Right.
And you could have gotten him into a couple of games and kind of seen from there. But, there are business aspects to it and salary cap aspects to it that have kind of, put that pothole in front of them that they have to kind of maneuver around. But I mean, talent is talent. And, you're always looking to bring in talent as long as he has the right attitude. And look, from all my, dealings and conversations and everything else, he's got a great demeanor. I mean, the fact that he went back this summer and really put in the work in the gym and everything else tells you exactly where his mindset is. I don't think that's an issue at all.
Do you think there's anything outside of just the salary cap ramifications why this isn't happening from the Lightning side?
Not from my understanding.
Yeah.
Right. I think there's mutual interest on both sides to make it happen this year.
Do you think a team like the Lightning are better suited to bring a guy like this in because of who they have in that locker room? McDonough, Hedmans,
it's a good question. It's a good question. It is tough to parachute in.
It is
at the end of the season. This is not training camp where doing practices with guys for a week and a half, 2 weeks before you get into preseason games and anything like that. So that is a challenge. But we know how welcoming this group is. Right. We've heard it with everybody that's been traded here over the last handful of years. And, I wrote that story about it, how quickly these players are reached out to. I think that he would be welcome with open arms because if a guy can help a team, players know it. And, that's where you have to put feelings aside. It's what's better for the team, what's better for the organization. And at the end of the day, that's why I think if there wasn't salary cap issues at the end of the day, the best thing for the player and the team in the situation is to get him here and then sort things out from there. Did I lose you? You're on mute. Uh-oh.
There we go. There it is. Yeah, the internet went off at Amelie. Sorry, I forgot where we
well, I didn't know if it was me or if it was you. It's like, oh no.
Well, we were just talking about, I guess, the veterans, because I feel bad. I mean, think about it. Guys that would be affected, or like we see how much Mitch Chafee has been affected. And then like Gage Gonsalves is probably the odd man out, right? If they do something like this, you would think. And, I like the way that Gage is played, man. I think, you're going to be playing on the second line tonight with Hagel and Cirelli. And this is another guy that went down to AHL, went down to Syracuse, worked on his game and came back. And, that's another thing I think you might have to worry about.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, if you were to pick one guy that would maybe have to come out of the lineup tonight, if this was the case, maybe you're looking at him. But, look, Gonsalves has taken the path to earn his way here, right? And especially after he was sent down, the second time this year and his latest recall, he's been a much different player since he's come back up. His confidence level is different. His understanding is different. His ability to make plays is different. Like he's just a different player than he was in November. So, that is something to kind of think about. But I do think, and I don't know if you heard me, but this locker room would welcome him. Whether he could help the team or not, they know at some point he would be a big part of this organization. So absolutely, he would be welcome with open arms. And then you put feelings aside and let things kind of play themselves out. But again, I will go back to 2014 when Cedric Paquette was in the lineup and Nikita Kucherov was not. Right. So that's kind of how things go with the coaching staff. And I know that was 11 years ago, and John Cooper was a much different coach back then than he is now. But it's interesting to see how this is going to play out.